Now we come to Persepolis, which was part of the Persian Empire. So this is an empire, we're going to come across it again when we deal with the Greeks, focused or sort of centrally located in Iran and expanding from there. And Persepolis is in Iran today. This would have been a royal audience hall. It would have been sort of the central palace for the Persian Empire. And what we're seeing is this royal audience hall, this incredible royal complex, on a slightly elevated position in the middle of a massive plain. And the reason is I can see my enemy coming from miles away in this situation. I've effectively got the high ground such as it is. So it's very difficult to invade or take over. We see a monumental gate, but more importantly, we see this royal audience hall in the back here. And that royal audience hall is 217 feet square with 60, and it was 60 feet tall at one point with 36 colossal stone columns. And imagine that scale for a minute. Everything you're surrounded by in this world, in the time of the Persians, around 500 BCE, everything you're surrounded by is to a human scale. It's one story, maybe two or three, but you don't see three very often. You're going to see one most commonly. And a one-story structure is the sort of thing that you can kind of reach up and maybe touch the roof, that sort of thing. Now imagine you're walking into something that's 6 stories tall. Just the grandeur and awe. It's going to be almost a mythical experience the first time you see something like that. That scale is going to be awe-inducing. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually focus on this. This is known as the Processional frieze. And here we have part of it we'll actually be looking at in the next slide. And these are reliefs that decorated the walls. And these are reliefs of Persian nobles and dignitaries who are processing to bring tribute. Now, in the Persian world, when they invaded someone, they left pretty much the entire power base of a city that they invaded in place. They didn't push a specific religion. The Persians really didn't care what religion you were. They did care about tribute. And so you would be assigned tribute, as we've talked about in the past. And here what we see is different kings, different rulers, and we know they're different because they're dressed differently and they're bringing different things, coming from all these different lands, providing tribute. And in return for the tribute, they get protection from the Persian army. Not a bad deal, really, when you think about it. Being Western, we tend to not like the Persians, but actually they were fairly reasonable people. So we see these national costumes and these regional gifts brought for the king. We see incredible technical precision when we deal with the actual work itself. We see traces of color. We know this would have been painted, just like every other structure and sculpture we've looked at. And we notice that the forms are rounder. We're actually able to see the body form under the clothing. So unlike when you're drawing, say, in first or second grade, and you draw your stick figure with the t-shirt that looks like it's heavily starched or made of cardboard over it, here we're seeing the arm, for example, underneath the robe. So I'm looking, for example, right here. We know there's a body form under these clothes. It's another step forward in art. And the treatment of the clothing is different on each figure. There are small differences to get across the idea of the diversity of the Persian Empire, which translates into the size of the Persian Empire. Now, in 330 BCE, Persia will fall to Alexander the Great, and he will destroy Persepolis. Eventually, we'll see Greek and Roman conquest in the area before the Persians come back, actually later on in history, but that's not part of this class. So that brings us to the end of the ancient Near East. Next up, we're going to be dealing with Egypt, so we're getting into mummies and the occasional daddy.